Hey everyone, so we are from the group 2, and today we're gonna talk about the gender family biology constructs the sexes. What is sex? Sex is a label, male or female, that you are assigned by a doctor at the birth based on the genitals you're born with and the chromosomes you have. It goes on your birth certificate. Biological definition of sexes. Sex refers to a set of biological attributes in humans and animals. It is primarily associated with physical and psychological features including chromosomes, gene expression, hormone levels and function, and reproductive and sexual anatomy. Brief history of American family. In the mid-18th century, American families experienced significant changes in family morality, leading to a more intimate relationship between husbands and wives and parents and children. Marriage was encouraged based on mutual affection, and women had greater freedom than their European counterparts. The family looked less like a miniature monarchy and more like a little commonwealth, with less differentiation between his and her spheres. Father and mothers were involved in child rearing and domestic life. However, by the mid-20th century, a gap between work and home grew, creating the separation of spheres, and family life was separated from the world of work. Alfred Lord Tennyson expressed this separation in his poem, The Princess. In the early 19th century, the world experienced significant transformation, with a growing gap between work and home, leading to the separation of spheres. Family life was separated from work, and the workplace and home were clearly defined. Alfred Lord Tennyson's poem The Princess exemplifies this separation, emphasizing the importance of man for the field and woman for the heart. Men experienced separation due to the shift from home and farm to mill, factory, shop, and office. They were able to leave their domestic tasks to their wives, allowing them to leave the rearing of children to them. Women's work was reconceptualized in popular literature as a God-given mission, rather than just work. Although some home-based work was eliminated, women still cooked meals and baked bread, even if their husband no longer grew and milled the grain. House cleaning and child rearing were increasingly seen as women's work. The family's importance declined as women were relegated to the role and its integration into the community attenuated. However, the family's symbolic importance increased, with casual events routinely organized as family events and community celebrations becoming household celebrations. The mid-19th century saw the invention of leisurely dinner hours, Sunday family time, and nuclear family togetherness on holidays like Christmas. The rapid industrialization of American economy reinforced earlier trends, with only about 2% of married women employed outside the home by 1890. The importance of fatherhood declined as motherhood became seen as women's sole calling, and the divorce rate continued to climb since soldiers returned from the Civil War. The crisis of the family was so pressing that President Theodore Roosevelt convened the first White House Conference on Children in 1909, advocating for men become more active fathers and encourage white native-born women to have more children.
The family crisis of the 20th century was largely due to the separation of spheres, with women's effort to leave the home and men's interest in returning home fluctuating. World War II disrupted this pattern, but the post-war economic boom stabilized the nuclear family form, with increased marriage rates and a decline in first marriage ages. The 1950s era saw high marriage rates, high fertility, and low divorce rates, reflecting a convergence of historical, demographic, and economic circumstances unlikely to return again. So, pag 1950s era, nakita nga daghan ang marriage rates, high fertility, o ubos nga divorce rates. A generation of middle-class men and women in suburban areas tried to maintain a conformity as suburban breadwinners, focusing on household chores and hobbies. This family form worked well for many parents and children. A suburban life was safer and simpler than crowded cities. Middle-class Americans took a family vacation, hang out together in the family rooms, and purchase family-size packages of prepared foods. Some husbands did on their wives, building stable, comfortable, children-centered, and companionable lives. Poet Archibald MacLeish praised his wife for her beauty and marital bliss. So, since the early 1980s, the family has been facing challenges due to the withdrawal of public supports, decreased wages, decreased leisure time, and increased demands of work. This has led to a decline in the quality of family life, with many problems associated with the family being due to the economic downturn. The number of children living in poor families has increased, and the middle-class families have experienced strain due to the erosion of leisure time and increasing demands of work. The age of first marriage has steadily increased since the 1960s, and the number of children has declined as couples delay childbearing to attend college and establish themselves in labor force. Single parents have also increased, with the number of people who have not married by age 30 increasing from 11% to 31%. Cohabitation is becoming more common, replacing early marriage among poor and working class people. So this is the table of 6.1, most common household combination, 2007. Living alone, 26%. Husband, wife, kids, are adopted or biological, 22%. Husband, wife, no kids, 28%. Single parent, kids, 9%. And married partners with or without kids, 4%. So the next history. The traditional family model, which has been a normative ideal for American families, has not been the reality for all of them. Support for separate spheres and the atomic dominance of men has weakened dramatically in the past few decades, but a substantial minority of Americans still clings to this view. In an international Gallup poll, fewer than half of those questioned agreed the traditional male breadwinner or female housewife model is desirable. This model represents the last outputs of traditional gender relations created through gender inequality that are being challenged in every observable arena. Families are gendered institutions, reproducing gender differences and inequalities among adults and children alike. Each aspect of family life, such as marriage, child rearing, housework, and divorce, expresses the differences and inequalities of traditional family structure.
Gendered marriage. It's the exact opposite of how we think about sex as his domain. To be employed tend to have lower incomes than married men and are more prone to crime and drug use. It all these suggest that marriage is a better deal for men than it is for women. Given the traditional division of labor into family or she works, he doesn't, and the non-traditional division of labor outside the family or he works, and she probably does too. The husband who works outside the home receives the emotional and social and sexual services that he needs to feel comfortable in the world. According to sociologist Linda Waite, married people have more sex more often than unmarried people and enjoy it more. Gendered parents gendering children. Marital happiness declines due to children. As children often dampen it, couples with children report higher levels of satisfaction, better education, and more commitment to careers. Marital happiness sinks with the arrival of the first baby, school age, and teenage years. Husbands begin to feel better about their marriages once their children turn 18, while wives don't until after the children leave home. Gender socialization begins at birth and continues throughout our lives, with parents influencing gender differences in their children through various sources, including college courses, textbooks, and admonitions. The gendered politics of housework and child care. The entry of women into the workforce has significantly transformed family life in recent American society. This shift is driven by economic necessity, ambition, and desire, and has altered the modern family structure. Working mothers report higher self-esteem and less depression than full-time housewives, but report lower marital satisfaction. This is partly due to increased workloads at home, while men benefit from having similar work done at home and additional income. Women report higher levels of stress than men, possibly due to their responsibility for housework and child care. The transformation of American life promised by women's entry into the labor force is a stalled revolution that depends on changes in men's attitudes and behaviors. Mothers spend significantly more time with the children than fathers, especially during infancy, and men's share of child care increases as children grow older. However, fathers spend only 5.5 hours a week alone with their children, while mothers spend closer to 20 hours a week. Men tend to work longer hours to support their children, while their wives spend less time at work, exacerbating gender gaps both at work and home.
The gendered politics of housework and childcare. A shell of oneself mindset can hinder family relationships and work-family balance. Without a national policy to help working women and men balance work and family obligations, strains on husbands and wives and parents and children continue. This strain leads to constructed problems and the continuation of family crisis as families struggle to sustain dual careers and divide household responsibilities. In the 1950s, the government established infrastructure to support family life. But today, we expect families to provide more support than they can provide, leading to constructed problems due to gender inequality. To address these issues, sustained national efforts to reduce inequality in both homes and workplaces is needed. The problem of daycare. The problem of daycare is that many Americans are reluctant to place their children in daycare, with no national funding for daycare centers and employers contributing only 1% of the total spent on child care. Despite the positive effects of daycare on children's development, there is not enough of it. It is not affordable, and the government and employers seem to care little about children. The debate around whether or not women should work outside the home is also a significant issue. The value of a mother's worth cannot be reduced to the cost of a paid substitute, and the debate over whether or not women should work outside the home is a complex issue. Children from divorced families may experience more severe problems than those in intact families due to greater marital conflict. A longitudinal study found that children in families that eventually divorce manifest problems long before the actual divorce. The consequences attributed to divorce may stem from marital conflict and family stress that preceded the divorce, rather than divorce itself. Blaming children's problem on parents, divorce is akin to stating cancer is caused by chemotherapy. Some propose making divorce harder to obtain, but most family researchers agree that this would exacerbate bitterness and conflict associated with divorce for kids.
Another real problem, child custody. Sa divorce, kasagaran involved is ang child custody issues. So, before the Industrial Revolution, so ang pagtanaw nila sa mga bata is maadyo. O that time is ang mga amahan kay matagaan sa kustodiya sa mga bata. So pag early 20th century, ang pag-alaga o pag-nurture sa mga bata is tuad sa inahan. So sa pagkakaroon is kuan na jud. Kung aha ang maadyo na interes sa bata is magamit siya sa korte para sa custody decisions. But sa kuan jud sa pagpractice nato as a mga tao, ang atong nakit-an jud is ang kanin jud maoy mga inahan, kay ang atong mga mama man kay mothers knows best. The problem of gay and lesbian families. Kasagaran ng jud sa mga gay and lesbian couples is ganan jud sila magpakasal tungod kay sa mga benefits na makuha nila like inheritance, medical consultations, residency, and more. While ang mga gay may relationships kay dali ra jud siya maguba kaysa heterosexual. So ang heterosexual di ay kay it means attracted ka sa opposite sex only, like man to woman and vice versa. Tungod kay masculine silang duha, then dili po sila magka-baby. Since wala man sila karapatan magpakasal for gay relationship, mao rason nga gidinay sila sa kuan ilang rights nga magpakasal.